live feature again. I picked up a load outside of Nashville today. I had a pickup early and I got halfway to it and it canceled. And then I got one at about 11 o'clock in almost the exact same area. And I'm heading for an 11 o'clock drop off in Toledo, Ohio tonight. And this is for GM. And GM is weird about that. They don't like you getting there early, which when it's an expedite, your brain says you should be there early, but they don't believe in that, I guess. So I have two little tiny pallets equaling 1,500 pounds, and I'm heading that way. I'm on 71 north of Louisville, between Louisville and Cincy right now, and it's kind of nice terrain out in the middle of nowhere. That's why I like driving here. Not too bad on the traffic, the rush hour going through Louisville. And a couple of choke points other than that lasted through now. Random thought that popped into my head. Again, World War II buff. It's my thing. The things I don't really talk about in history is the Japanese were trying to set up an empire in Southeast Asia, which is not unlike what the Americans and the Europeans did, 50, 75 years earlier. So they were kind of following along the same concept, but the world had changed to a point they couldn't do that anymore. That had something. The Japanese didn't actually want a war with the United States. They just wanted to knock us out as a threat because they wanted to go and kind of run around and do what they wanted to do and be in charge of what they titled the East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere. All the Asian nations come together with, of course, the Japanese in charge. Maybe calling shots. That was kind of how they envisioned it. And a little stat rolling into World War II. Prior to the war, the Japanese hadn't lost a war in 4,000 years. Think about that. And they hadn't lost a battle in 300 years. So they rolled into the war pretty cocky. You're allowed to roll in cocky if you had that kind of a track record. Lo and behold, they launched the war. They put Admiral Yamamoto in charge, and he had lived in the United States. And he told the Japanese government, he said, "If you want to launch a war against the Americans, I could give you an endless string of victories for 6 months to a year, and after that, no guarantees because they will simply outproduce us." So along came the attack on Pearl Harbor, which everybody knows how that went down. It was a great, huge tactical victory, but a strategic disaster for the Japanese. One of the huge things they did wrong, just from a tactical level, is they launched 2 waves against Pearl Harbor, but they didn't even think about hitting the ship repair facilities or the fuel tanks, which were huge and full. It was an oversight. They didn't go for the actual ability to reconstruct, which shot themselves in the foot on that. So first 6 months of the war, they basically took everything they touched, everything they invaded, they took, because there was really nothing and no one there to fight against them. But almost exactly 6 months later to the day was the Battle of Midway, which was June 4th to June 6th. And that was the turning point of a major disaster in the turning of the war in the Pacific. Happened on that. They lost 4 aircraft carriers, which they can't produce aircraft carriers like this country can. They didn't have the capability. And they also kept all their eggs in one basket. All their best pilots were on those carriers. They didn't fit them out and put the new guys, mix it with the old guys. They had all the old guys that knew what they were doing together. And I don't care how wonderful of a pilot you are. If you're sitting in your cockpit in a row of aircraft on a carrier deck and a bomb falls on your head, it's not going to turn out well for you. That was something that popped into my head. And something else, tomorrow is June 6th. Everybody knows about June 6th. The invasion of D-Day in France, 1944. They have a huge celebration. They have parades and memorials, all kinds of stuff about it. Lord knows they've made a bunch of movies. But one other thing that happened right around this time, the Americans landed in Sicily, 1943. Took Sicily, pushed their way up the Italian peninsula, and took Rome on June 4th, which was all over the headlines. You know, we've captured our first enemy capital, and General Mark Clark was the talk of the walk. And then 2 days later, June 6th happened, and he completely fell off the page. And I don't even think they talked about Italy after that. It was like he was forgotten. So from June 4th to June 6th, the world turned. But something else happened in there that's kind of quiet. June 4th, 1944 is when the German U-boat U-505 was captured at sea. And if you're at all into history, that's something you can look up. The submarine itself is in the Chicago Museum. My wife and I have actually visited that in 22 and shot a video about it. But it was literally captured, which is the first time an enemy warship, a man of war, has been captured at sea by the U.S. military since 1812, where they damaged it, ran them out of power, and basically the crew popped to the surface, jumped out, pulled the plug, and they're going to get picked up by the Allies. The sub's going to sink. Well, the Allies raced over and put the plug back in just before it hit that point where it was going to sink, and they towed it, got it under tow, and were able to pump the water out and capture the submarine intact, which was pretty awesome. It was an intelligence boom, of course, and then they had the crew, which they saved all, but I think one guy, they saved from the crew. This one guy went down, not nailed down, but he got shot up on the deck. They thought he was trying to man the guns or something. They couldn't tell their families that their loved ones had survived. They had to act like they were gone. They hid them someplace, because if they got word back to their family, they were going to say, "Oh, by the way, the Allies captured our sub," and that would make them change their codes and their equipment and all kinds of stuff. So they had to keep isolated. After the war, the sub got parked somewhere and picked over for souvenirs. And it just sat until 1954 when it was asked for or donated to the museum in Chicago. But again, it had been picked clean by souvenir hunters. And I think I may have mentioned this back in 22 when I shot the video going around on it. The museum contacted the manufacturer in Germany and said, "Hey, we want to rebuild this submarine. We're wondering if you could supply us with some parts to put it together." And the German response was, "We're not real happy that you have that, but let's make it a monument to German engineering and the German sailors who served on them. What do you need?" And they sent them a list, and they had warehouses full of leftover parts from the war. So that was extremely classy, I think, on the Germans' behalf to volunteer all that equipment. So it's one of the few very perfectly restored subs out there. It's a really good museum piece to go through. But that's what happened on June 4th. They captured Rome, and the U-505 was captured. Then again, June 6th, tomorrow, with the which D-Day happened. That was like the big thing. That was the thing that took all the headlines and kept it. And they have many movies about the U-505. I think they've made any movies about the capture of Rome, but wow, they've made a lot of D-Day movies. Woo! Whole bunch. All right. Well, I'm heading up north. I am got to drop my package tonight. I got to do oil change, and I do my own. You do a lot of oil changes on these vans, and I run straight synthetic. To go into a place to get it done, it's like $110. But I can buy my synthetic oil online. I got the ones I have bought. I think I paid $22 for a 5-quart container, and I get the filters for about $10. So for less than $35, I do my oil changes. So it's another way of saving money doing this. All right, I like this time of day. I like the sun being kind of behind you. I like being with the trees here on the road. So that's why I decided to go live here for a little while. All right. You guys have a good time. Have a great day. I'll let you go.